The first thing we're going to be going over today is a Jedi mind trick. Aaron, I have right here in Star Wars The Jedi Path.
Okay.
A non-canon novel at this point. But I wanted to read from it. All right? This book is really interesting. It goes over a bunch of Jedi stuff, but it also has annotations from various Jedi like Yoda, Dooku, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, a bunch of stuff. So it's really cool to see like in the margins.
Okay.
Anyway, affect mind, Aaron.
Okay. The Jedi mind trick.
Commonly referred to as...
The Jedi...
You got to say it, though, so that it works.
The Jedi mind trick.
Thank you. Can override the impulses of an undisciplined brain. This ability should be a temporary means to accomplish a greater good. It should never be used for profit or gain.
Okay.
Okay? Now, we all know the Jedi mind trick, classic OT. This is not the droids you're looking for.
Isn't every time you're using it for gain of some sort, though?
Not necessarily.
Right? Like, didn't they gain entry to the cantina by saying these aren't the droids you're looking for?
Actually, I do want to say the annotation right beside this. It says, I think Master Qui-Gon is a little too fond of this. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, okay.
Because Qui-Gon's like, he tries to do it to Boss Nass. He tried to do it to Watto. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really likes to use it.
Yeah.
The thing I want to talk about is generally a mind trick is a suggestion. You affect someone's mind, and you just kind of be like, hey, maybe you should do this. And they go, maybe I should do that. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. But I was watching The Clone Wars, as I am apt to do, because it's a fantastic series.
It happens, yeah. Sure.
In the Martez Sisters arc.
Okay. Season 7.
Now, Ahsoka does a mind trick, and I wanted to watch it and talk about it and compare it to some of the other mind tricks. Because
we didn't do this before?
Huh?
We watched this show, like twice.
We never really talked about this.
We never really talked about this part, huh?
Aaron, we have a whole channel now talking about Star Wars.
Okay,
Get used to retreading stuff.
We should do this, okay.
So let's go ahead, and Gonk is going to throw up this scene. So let's go ahead and watch Ahsoka use the Jedi mind trick on the Pikes.
Here is your payment.
Payment.
Now, let us take a look at that cargo.
You don't trust me? I mean, you hired me.
I don't trust anyone who isn't a Pike.
Clean up that spice.
Yeah.
You want to pay us our credits and send us on our way.
Here are your credits.
All right. That's it. Good, Gonky. You have done well.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. So, I know about that one scene, right?
Okay.
We know that through the context, Ahsoka's trying to keep quiet. She doesn't want people to know that she's a Jedi, a Force user, because the Martez sisters kind of have bad history with the Jedi, right? She's staying secret. What's wrong with this scene compared to all the other times we've seen the Jedi mind trick?
Is your thoughts on it how, like, does he hear it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because in the cartoon and in TV shows in general, right, lots of times people are quiet. And it's one of those questions of, like, how quiet are they being?
Sure.
Because it's an implied, like, she's quieter than if she was just like, all right, guys, let's get out of here,
It's
right?
one of the most common things when you have adults watching stuff mainly for kids, which is like, shut up, they can hear you. It's like, guys, it's a story, and they can't. That's the whole point, right?
So, like, how loud is she? Is there a whisper that, does he hear it?
Yeah.
Does he not hear it? And is it just like a manipulation?
That's the thing. In almost, and I sourced this in every other, maybe Expand Universe and maybe some of the other comic stuff that I haven't, book stuff I haven't seen yet. In almost every other instance, you have to hear the suggestion to be able to repeat it, right? You will drop your weapon and leave the door unlocked. Rey does it, right? Everybody has to hear the thing.
Okay.
But by nature of the context, Ahsoka cannot be that loud because Rafa, right? Rafa is right beside her.
Sure.
Closer than the Pike is.
Rafa's in front, right? And
Yeah,
Trace,
Trace.
I think, is to the left of her.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right?
Something like that. But anyway, the
And then
point
there's pikes
is
all around
that there's pikes all around. That one Pike technically shouldn't be able to hear her. Now, I'm not the kind of person that comes in and says, they fucked it up. I always see it as like they're expanding, right?
Okay.
The idea of what a mind trick can do.
Sure.
But how do you feel about this specific instance?
Well, I suppose I need to ask, what is it that Obi-Wan does in the original trilogy after he deactivates the tractor beam?
yeah.
Because in that moment there, he does something, and they're like, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Must have been nothing. But I'm
Yeah.
like, was that like a mind manipulation thing? Or did he move something that we couldn't see down the hall? Or what happened there?
And I don't tell you this enough, but I love you. That's exactly what I was going to talk about.
Oh, was it? Okay. Because I was just,
when I was a kid, I always assumed that he was just using the Force to like knock over like a water jug or something. You
Okay.
know? Like,
yeah.
You know?
Like, they made a noise.
And they're like,
But-
what was that?
But like, we never see anything move or anything there, It's
yeah,
like
and I suppose that you could maybe contextualize that to be a mind trick. in which case that would match a little bit. And I'd be open to, if, Dave Filoni said, that's what happened. George told me. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
know?
right? Like, I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what Dave or
Yeah.
George would have thought of those kind of moments and stuff, what they're going for, but he's using the Force in some way, and the one guy acts like he doesn't hear anything, right? He's like, what was that noise? And the other guy looks with him and he's like, I don't know.
Maybe that's a T-16.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Must have been nothing. So
Yeah, but I find it really interesting watching this. Like, Ahsoka. So let's take that at face value. What you saw is exactly what happens in the context that happens. Ahsoka is whispering it, but she's almost telepathically mind tricking somebody, right? Which is a little more dark side. We don't really get the chance to see a Sith mind probe like we've seen Kylo Ren do, Darth Maul did to one of the clones in Siege of Mandalore to Jesse. We know that affecting somebody's mind can be way more forceful, right?
Sure.
You can take something, whereas Jedi usually just kind of like they nudge you, right? They don't put their will over you necessarily.
Sure.
Though I think that a more maybe morally great Jedi would be like, I mean, yeah, we do. We do kind of do that. You know, you have to kind of justify
with
taking
nothing,
over somebody's free will.
When you're looking at nothing for gain, like what else was Qui-Gon doing in Episode 1, right? When he was like talking to Watto. I mean, especially Watto, right? Boss Nass he did, and it worked, but Watto was like, these credits will do fine. He's like, I don't have anything else. These credits will do fine.
Do you think some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that?
And he's like, no, it's not going to work on me. But like, he's using it for gain, and it's like, as opposed to stormtroopers in A New Hope, right? You have Obi-Wan, where it's like these guys they're not really paying attention. Maybe they don't know these are the droids. They may just be like, we aren't looking for these guys. Move on, right? It's not as big of a mind trick. So
and also maybe like there's a matter of passion that can push through a mind trick.
Sure.
Maybe like a stormtrooper on Tatooine, it's dusty and it's sandy, and you're looking for what are we looking for? The most common droids in the galaxy. All right. Old guy said there wasn't any. Maybe he just was kind of like pushed along a little bit.
Say, I'm tired today. I want to go home.
As opposed to like taking your will. But I find it really interesting because Ahsoka is in this situation because the sisters have put her in the situation for their own gain. Granted, we're also kind of like sticking it to the Pikes they use their spice for more than just medicine, and we know that. We know the terrible things they do to Kessel, all that type of thing. So I think you can justify her use of it. I just think it's so interesting how different it is from every other mind trick we've seen.
Every other time it feels more of like I'm going to talk directly to them, and then they're going to be manipulated, right?
Yeah.
There was, what was it? I'm trying to remember what it was where, maybe it was a book that we read. What was the last book we did? I think it was the last book we read with, or Dooku, I guess, maybe. It was something happened where it's like, you will forget we were here. He's like, I will forget who am I talking to?
Yeah,
right.
I love
those
that
kind
one.
of moments, right?
That's my favorite one.
But I don't know. There might be a bigger question on with the Pike of, is it more out of character? Because that's a trickier thing too, right? Is it too out of character for this person to do these things? Because they need to have a strong will.
Hey, if I was Ahsoka, I'd be like, what? I'm not a Jedi.
Yeah, right. So like, is the Pike more likely to be like, all right, just take this, get out of here, versus like, I need to know about my spice or all that kind of stuff. But no, I think there's some wiggle room too of like how loud is she talking? Yeah, she is not a Jedi, as said much later in not Clone Wars. I guess honestly in Clone Wars too, right? She tells Mace Windu and Yoda and the Council and stuff. It's like, I'm not a Jedi.
She mentioned it to
right?
his sisters at the end too.
Like,
I'm not a Jedi anymore.
Yeah, and then Mace, he does a citizen, kind of
citizen.
thing.
Citizen.
Like, all right, thanks, Mace. So so I don't know. There's some wiggle room too of how much of the Force she may use compared to the Jedi way, but it's also I don't know. Screw the Pikes.
Sure. But yeah, I saw that moment and I was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna go to Wikipedia, see what like all the canned examples are of a mind trick, and I found one that said sometimes you don't have to say it. And I'm like, ooh, and it had an annotation, a reference. I clicked the reference, and it was this.
It was this one?
It was this. I think it's the only time it's happened.
When you were talking about it, I was going through, I'm like, okay, how many mind tricks can I think of? I can think of this, this, this. And I was like, Obi-Wan does something at the tractor beam thing. Does he do a mind trick? Yeah. Or does he, like, move something
That's
that
the closest one
see?
I could think of as well.
And besides that, I'm like, most everything else I feel like is almost, like, right in your face talking to you, right? From Obi-Wan with Stormtroopers to Qui-Gon with Boss Nass to, I don't know.
Like, it's not mind control. It's just softening your brain a little bit and then suggesting it. And I get that.
Suggesting is a good word.
There's been like video games and stuff where you can use a mind trick and bring someone to your side or have them jump off a ledge.
Sure.
And you don't say anything there, but that's a video game.
Yeah.
Video games.
Unleashed, you get a guy, he just starts shooting other troopers. Like, what
sure,
are you doing?
Right? I mean, that's why Force heal was such a big deal in the sequel trilogy, despite it being in video games for 25 years. It's nothing new to the people that are like, what? My health was low. I did Force heal. It makes sense. So the video game version I also don't really count necessarily either, despite canonicity? Canosity?
Canon.
The canon.
Yeah, just do that. That's easier.
I think so.
Well, and then you have Grogu using that later on, right, in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So, like, now we have a few Force heal examples in just Star Wars movie TV shows.
Yeah. Now, which Jedi is it? Yazarel Poof? Do you remember Yazarel Poof, the big, long neck and the head?
On the council?
On the council in Episode 1, I think.
Okay.
At least in the old canon, he was especially good at mind tricks because he has two brains, one up here and one down here. He had a brain in his cavity. And there's something about, if Toydarians and Hutts have something about the way their mind is structured or their, neural pathways are formed that helps you resist it. Maybe someone like Yazarel Poof, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. I haven't said it much. He didn't appear in the Clone Wars. Dang it.
Yeah, right.
Though he did appear in Robot Chicken. You remember?
What?
Him in Robot Chicken?
I remember Robot Chicken.
Yeah, he was very funny in Robot Chicken. So maybe if there's something about you're just a little bit better by nature of your species, maybe you could say that Ahsoka's species has something special about where, like, I don't know, they can throw their voice. You never hear people that throw their voice?
Yeah.
Like, it's a
skill.
lot
of ventriloquists can do that kind of stuff, right?
It's crazy. Like, that's like the closest I believe in magic.
That type of stuff.
Like throwing voices, the crazy things people can do with their voices. I'm not saying that's what Ahsoka's doing. It's a kid's show that, and I don't say that disparaging. I just mean that a child has to instantly understand what's happening. And that's really all that matters when it comes to blocking out scenes in shows like this. Yeah, we can look at deeper meanings and try to analyze like I'm doing now, and you can be like, you're thinking about too much.
Sure, yeah.
A kid needs to be instantly understand that what Ahsoka is doing is a mind trick, just like we've seen all the others do before. It's just that one I feel like opens up this idea of like either Ahsoka is doing something not very Jedi-like in how she's doing it.
Sure.
Maybe a little closer to a mind probe. I'm not really sure. I'm not really certain. But I think it's a really interesting question, and I would love for people to reach out to us what they thought about
There could
this.
be some wiggle room, too, of like, when looking at the dark side versus light side and stuff, you can have like, well, here's, I don't know, Obi-Wan, like, force lifting, right, and holding, I don't know, Leia or whoever it is, right, like picking them up. Or like 3PO, when Luke picks up 3PO, right, and floats him through there.
You'll become angry and
like that's
magic.
like one level of the Force. And like the next one to the dark side is like Force choke. You're still picking someone up.
Yeah, you
but
just
now
picking
you're
them
also
up right here.
squeezing it. Like there's like a little bit worse version of that. So maybe that's like there's Jedi mind tricks kind of okay.
Yeah.
And then there's like the next Jedi mind trick is maybe more like what Ahsoka does here, maybe. And then the next one's more of like, well, now we're probing and we're not just suggesting things.
Sure.
And
I think that we could go real deep into that philosophy about how the Force should be about doing the will of the Force and not necessarily your own will. And, Vader could pick people up by their forearms and they'd be, ee! Or he could pick them up by their throat and they're like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's a subtle difference, but it's a big difference.
Yeah.
So, I just thought that was when I was watching that episode, I was like, huh, cool.
Yeah. I'm glad we both jumped to like the Obi-Wan idea where it's like, what about this?
The one,
like, I thought of that too.
Yeah.
And no one talks about it. No, it's funny to be like, man, people, like, I could see people being upset, like, Ahsoka doesn't do this the right way. It's messed up and stuff. It's like, well, what did Obi-Wan do here? It's like, don't talk about that one.
Yeah, right.
It's in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm just saying there's holes in all of them. You just have fun with it.
Yeah. Holes are okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, guess what? This stuff's fake. There's going to be mistakes. But I don't know if that one's necessarily a mistake. I don't know if that's meant to be some type of, like, showing just Ahsoka's a credible skill.
Sure. Well, and sometimes it's a thing where it's like, it's not necessarily told, but maybe it's left open, or maybe you find out more later on, or something like that too.
No, this book, The Jedi Path, is responsible for Rian Johnson coming up with the Force projection for the end of Episode 8. Like, he did a tweet where people were like, "This is stupid. This has never happened in Star Wars." And he did like a picture of his bookshelf, and then another picture of him taking this off the shelf, and then a picture of him flipping to it where it says Force projection. This is incredibly dangerous. He's like, "What? I read it in the book."
Well, it's one of those things too. It's like, oh, the Force never did this. It's like, well, does that mean it can't do this, or just we've never seen it done before? Like, the idea of like the Night Sisters and things they do. It's like, oh, well, that's not the Force. Like, well, why not? Or is it just this isn't a Force that we've seen before?
Exactly.
But it's still the Force. So
I don't think Dooku ever thought that Mother Talzin would burst from his chest and scream at him, and then he would throw up magic.
Yeah,
you know,
right?
like that's
Boils
pretty
and stuff
unprecedented.
everywhere,
I'm
yeah.
not saying Ahsoka's anywhere close to that, but
No.
I thought it was an interesting pathway for maybe expanding on that power in a way. But maybe that's a little messy too, because why would Ahsoka be able to do that, and we haven't seen it from any other Jedi? But maybe they can't or they don't. I don't know.
Sure, but maybe it's also the way that they follow, right?
Maybe.
Like I feel like Qui-Gon's views.
Yeah.
Like Qui-Gon did some stuff that no other Jedi ever did.
Yeah.
And why is that? Is it because of his strength? Is it because of his viewpoints? Is it because what's the reason there?
I don't know if this is a weakness of me being a fan or a strength, but when I come upon like a plot hole, I instantly try to smooth it over.
I get what you mean.
I try to justify it
Sure.
in a way where it's like, look, things happen, yes, but how can we make this better through retroactive continuity or just, further explanation from the artist or just having fun and seeing a mistake and being like, oh, cool.
Sure.
Rather than like, hate.
I watched a video. I think I watched a video. I don't think I read an article. I think I watched a video, and they were talking about episode 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have Padme, who is losing the will to live, right? Dying, has given birth to these 2 kids and stuff like that. And it's like, we don't know why she's dying. She's lost the will to live.
Sure.
And some people are like, well, she's tormented by what she's seen from Anakin and all this kind of stuff. And it's, and she's just kind of let go.
Yeah.
And childbirth can be really hard on you.
Mm-hmm.
But I also saw some people being like, well, what if Palpatine is draining her life force to save Anakin and keep Darth Vader alive? And they were like, but the person who was talking about this, like, there's no evidence of that at all in the show. It's like, but that's one of those things where it's like, why is she dying? And people are like, I don't know, it could be this, could be this.
Yeah.
It's like,
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's really creative.
yeah, I mean, it's a neat idea. It's
Look,
like,
when Obi-Wan says stuff like, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father, and then he like gives these looks, right? And when we watch him go, like, I know exactly what he's thinking. He's thinking, man, I miss my friend, and I can't tell his son what really happened. None of that is the intention by Alec Guinness. None, because all that stuff happened in Empire, right? After they had filmed in 76 or whatever it was, 75. So that's us smoothing over something, but it's just been part of the fan lexicon for so long. We don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So whenever we do that for new things, I think people don't realize, hey, this is a tradition that's gone far before you, and it'll continue to happen far after you.
yeah. It's like you're driving down, like you just ignore the potholes in the roads you're used to, but then a new one shows up. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Sure, right?
Oh, man. It's like, well, no, we can figure out that too. So,
Exactly.
no, there's some different solutions and stuff I think that you can have
Yeah.
if you want to, but it's also just like you can have fun with a lot of
I
it.
really like that Sidious one.
The city, the Palpatine,
Yeah.
like keeping.
If you're watching this video later on YouTube, comment down below your favorite smoothing over the potholes. Maybe we can do a whole section
that'd be
about it.
cool.
That would be really fun.
I'm sure there's tons of those that
even
I just
ones
don't
I don't even
know.
notice anymore.
Yeah, because that one I'd never necessarily heard of before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've always heard like, oh, she lost the will to live, and I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, I understand, whatever, but I don't know if Palpatine could like.
Yeah.
I mean, he has, he does all kinds of stuff
Mm-hmm.
with his force powers from Plagueis, create life,
Yeah.
manipulate life. He was going to save Padme before.
Yeah.
How is he going to do that? Well, maybe he's going to save his apprentice this time. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. So, I don't know. If we get a story that talks about that more at some point, there's a possibility, in a book or in I don't know, Bad Batch. Who knows? They
Maybe.
could talk about something. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Awesome.
All
right.
Well,
that's it.
that's cool. I like the talk about Ahsoka and the Jedi mindset.
And
but
any excuse I get to watch Clone Wars.
Clone Wars is great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love Rebels too, but
I also love-
Clone Wars has some of my favorite stories.
Yep.
Rebels I think has my favorite overall show.
Mhm.
Like I think it has less weaknesses as a whole show.
I agree.
Than Clone Wars.
Yeah.